Hey guys, Delaney here. Today I am going to show you how I use Google Spreadsheets to track our dairy and farm expenses and income. It's a really important aspect of running a dairy and a farm. While it might be a little intimidating, make sure to take the time to find the right system that works for you. I'll be showing you our tracking system. I'm making it super simple and you can adapt it as needed. Let's jump right in. If this is something you've struggled with, don't worry, I've been there too. My husband and I sat down and we discussed how we had neglected to do this our first year and that we needed to make it a priority from year 2 onward. When he brought the idea that I was going to have to be in charge of that, I freaked out a little bit. I panicked and I did what I always do, which is overthink it, overcomplicate it, and to stress myself out. Luckily, what my husband is great at is making things super simple and super clear for me to understand, to kind of get through all the mental garbage that pops up when I have to do something that is hard for me. He walked me through creating our first spreadsheet, and with him kind of sitting there walking me through it, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually not as hard as I was anticipating. The first year we used it, it worked great. I got into a rhythm of, at the end of every month, just inputting our receipts. And after about probably 6 months, I was able to do it no problem. Although after our first year, I realized that it needed a few tweaks. I'm sharing the new and improved version. The tweaks were pretty simple. A lot of it had to do with tabs missing, with topics or subjects missing, and moving tabs around. We had roughly the same tabs in each category, but they weren't in the same place. So every time I had to input, let's say, cost of an item, in one category it was over here, and in another category it was over here, and my mind just, it wasn't hard to figure out, but it just took a little bit of that extra brain energy that I needed for other things. So I was like, this year we're gonna make everything in the right order. We're going to have the right labels for everything so that I know where everything goes, and we're a little bit more specific on those categories. I'm someone who likes things kind of in a certain order, and that's just me. It's just how my brain works. If I can do a task and it is the same task and it's a repetitive task and I don't have to think too hard, it's really simple for me to do. If it's one where I constantly have to go in and jump in and change my thought process multiple different times for something super simple, it kind of drives me nuts. So I'm like, I want to make it as simple and as easy and quickly to do as possible. I'm a busy mom. I don't have a lot of time. So the less amount of time I have to think and do this, the better. I am going to have the spreadsheet up in the large screen and then have me on the side just to help you walk through how to set this up. So the first thing you need to do is open up a Google spreadsheet, which is go to any of your search engines in your computer and just type Google Spreadsheets. It should be one of the first links that pops up, and when you go in, it should look like this. There's going to be 2 tabs, one that's blue, and it's going to say Try Sheets for Work, and this is to start a brand new spreadsheet. The other one is Go to Sheets, which is going to ones that you've already created. So if you are starting from scratch, go ahead and click on Try Sheets for Work. In the example, I actually press Go to Sheets, but you can also go to the top of that and there's a blank file, and you can click on that and that'll take you to the same place. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name the file. So I put farm expenses/income. And later on, I actually add the date. I don't do it right now because I forgot. But I do farm expenses/income. Last year, I didn't have a date because it was the first we'd ever done. This year, we are doing 2023. You'll see at the top that it says saving to drive, and that's where it saves. It saves on like a cloud. And then we're going to go to the very bottom, and it's going to say sheets. And I can't remember exactly how many tabs we end up with, but I kind of make at least 4, and then I start putting our labels on it. You can rename the file, so I have income for one, business expenses for another. The third is feed, so this is like what we use to actually feed our animals. The next tab is supplies. This is straw. This is any sort of tools we need. I made another one, and I'm labeling this vet/medical. There's a lot of minerals and vet visits and medicine that we have to buy, so we put all that in a separate category. I'm making another one, and this is going to be animal purchases. This is any animals that we choose to buy on farm. A lot of this is chickens, but last year we bought our first round of meat rabbits, and so that went in there as well. Anytime we need to purchase a sheep, that would go in there. All right, and then I'm going to go to the very top, and in the number 1 column that goes across, I put cost. Then I put store, what store I purchased it from, the specific item, any notes that I want to put, and the date it was bought. And then I switch over to the next tab, and I do the same thing. I do cost. Some of the tabs will have some extras, other ones won't. Some of them will look almost identical, other ones will have slight differences. This is cost, and then store/vet office. We buy a lot of this stuff from co-ops and Tractor Supply and sometimes online, but then we also have some emergency vet visits and stuff like that. And so I want to make sure I know which vet office I purchased it from, because we have 2 or 3 vets. The item or items that were bought, any notes, and then date. And then I also put for which animal, because if there's an animal that has reoccurring health issues, then that animal's place on the farm needs to be evaluated. So if for some reason I go at the end of the year and I go, wow, one of our sheep has just had multiple issues, we'll have to figure out her place here. And then the other one, we have cost. It says number of animals we purchased. I put type of animal. Like I said, we go through chickens, rabbits. We're planning to get some ducks this year. Sheep if we need to. So we put that. And I go back and I put cost per animal, and then the number of animals, and then eventually I'll also put total. I just want to know more specifically what we bought, for what we paid for each animal, but also what we bought total. So for this one, again, I was moving things around because I was kind of thinking it through as I made it. So first one would be cost per animal, and then total cost, and then number of animals purchased, and then the type of animal, and then what store or person we bought it from. We don't always buy it from the store. Sometimes we buy it from neighbors and things like that. So I want to know who I purchase it from in case I want to get more or I want to avoid in the future. I also want to put maybe a email or a phone number of the person we purchased it from. So again, if later on in the year I want to buy more, I know where to go and I know how to contact them. I have that information in other places, but it's good to have it in a few, just so you don't lose it, especially if you find a really good person to buy animals from. You really want to keep their information and buy from them for next time. Again, I put notes and then date. I always like to know when we purchased it. It also helps keep track of what month we purchased it. I like to know which months of the year are kind of our heavy expenses months. Which usually tend to be like spring and summer, but those are ones that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't tracked. But now I'm tracking and I go, oh yeah, those are our bigger months. And then again, we're going to do cost, which store we bought it from, the item we bought, any notes, and the date. Some of these again are super simple. Some of the reoccurring payments like feed and some supplies are stuff that don't need a ton of notes or even a ton of information on. It's just something that we keep track of. So the first is going to be category. What section of the business did we have to purchase it from? Was it rennet for the cheese? Was it some flowers for when visitors come and tour our farm? Was it glass jars because somehow one of our jars got broken and I needed to buy a new set? Anything like that would go into what the category was, the date we purchased it, the amount, probably what needed to be in here, and I don't think I put it in here, is the item purchased, just because it is very specific to the business. And maybe I do put it in here, but for right now I don't see it. And then I put, again, notes, and then section of business. So again, this would be sheep or legal. Again, soap. A lot of times you have to do colorants and scents and stuff like that, so that would go into soap. So the section of business would be stuff like scents and colorants for the soaps we make. Education, those would be like flowers and things to make our farm look presentable for tours. Rennet and cheesecloths for cheese making. Jars or filters for milk. Legal, we have the LLC, which is what is our business. We have to purchase that every year. We have the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. That is a really great organization that helps farmers get their products into the consumer's hands legally, and then if there's any sort of pushback legally, they have legal representation. They have legal representatives that will come and kind of support you and fight for you. So we really like them, and we usually like to be a member of that organization. Then we have Desana, which is a group that is only dairy sheep. So it's not talking about cows, not goats. It is specifically dairy sheep, and it'll talk about nutrition, the components of milk, raw versus pasteurized, how to make your sheep produce more fat so it's better cheese, that kind of stuff. And then lab tests, we usually send in our milk to be tested once a month, and so that's an expense. Shearing, that's a 1-year thing, but it's still an expense that we have to do for the farm. And I put shearing in business expenses just because it is so kind of random and out there. There's nowhere else to put it. And it is sort of a communal outreach type thing that we do. Pet food license, that is what we have to purchase every year for us to be able to sell our raw milk as pet food. That is, you legally are required to do that. If you're selling raw milk and pet food, you need to have a license, at least in Tennessee. Again, a lot of this is specific to Tennessee. Supplies, these are specifically not farm related, but they're business related. So let's say I need to get more ink for the computer. That is a business expense because I am printing out labels for our soaps. And then anything else that I deem a business expense will also go under this section as well. And now we're getting into income. So what I like to put is the amount, so the number of items that the customer purchased, what category did they buy it from? Was it milk, soap, eggs, a tour? Any of that stuff goes under category. The name of the purchaser. This is really important for knowing kind of who our reoccurring customers are, so that when I am at the point where we are looking for reviews or feedback, I know kind of who's purchased from us the most, and I would know who would give us the most honest feedback. How can we make our business better for you? Because you guys obviously are kind of all in and love us, and we love you guys, and we want to be better and better. And you guys are the ones that we want to focus on and ask the feedback from. And so it's really important for us to label who the purchaser is, so that I know when it comes time for me to reach out and ask, hey, how can we make things better? I know who to ask. Then we have notes and dates. Again, I put that on everything because it's just really good for me to know. Notes is a good one too. And then I realized I forgot one. I put the amount of items purchased, but I didn't actually put the item. So I wanted to put that as well. And I label it as product. So what product did they purchase from us? And I include tours and stuff in products too. So I copied and pasted the other categories so that I knew kind of what I had originally thought of category-wise for the other tab. So I just copied and pasted. The legal wouldn't really be representative in the income section. And so that probably needs to be deleted. But the rest of the stuff works here fine. You know, shearing, if we sell any wool, that's a category. We don't usually sell our wool, but if we ever did, that would be in this section. But then below that, I put milk, eggs, soap, again, wool. We don't technically sell our raw wool, but I have had friends of mine who've taken our wool and made yarn and given us some. And so if we ever decide to go that route, or if someone comes up and says, hey, do you have this type of wool? And we had some and we weren't using it, then we could sell it. So that's why that category is there. Cheese, that's different than milk. So milk, eggs, soap, wool, cheese. Events, any sort of events that we had people come and pay for the event themselves, like lamb cuddles, tours. We do private tours on occasion. I went back and clarified public event versus private event because there is a difference in the cost. Another thing that would be in here is classes. We do not do classes as of yet, but I'm always open to looking into other options. Coaching is one that we are opening up for this year. This is financial coaching. My husband works for Dave Ramsey and the Ramsey Solution Company, and so we are a no-debt farm. He works at Ramsey, but on the side, he is a financial coach. So I really love the idea of targeting some farms for financial coaching because a lot of farms are really struggling right now. And so we wanted to open up the option for my husband to do some financial coaching for anybody either looking to get into a farm and wants to make sure that their finances are okay or they can be stronger, or people who are currently farming and are really struggling with debt or just dealing with budgets. It can be overwhelming. We're putting coaching in here because we're going to be offering some of the financial coaching from him to help with people in our farm community. That is down the pipeline. It is not currently open, but it is something that we are planning to do. That is why the coaching is on there. And then I also put etc. because I'm me and I come up with a billion ideas, so who knows, there could be a lot more income opportunities that I haven't even thought of. So I always have to put and then some because you never know with me. Now we have a brand new income and expenses spreadsheet for the coming year. If making one of these spreadsheets yourself just seems way too complicated and again overwhelming, I have a special gift for you. There is a link down below in the description where you can sign up for our newsletter. You'll get some product and farm updates, but what you will also get is access to our You and Me library. It is a Google Drive. Inside it, I have this very spreadsheet as a template just to help you all out because I know it can be just a lot. You can edit it, save it, change it as needed, but the bones are there, the tabs are there, the categories are there, it is all there. I wanted something to give you guys, not just as a walkthrough on how to create your own if you want to really do something different and not do exactly what we did, but I also wanted to offer a template for you guys in case you're like, no, that's exactly what I need and I just needed to like change a name on it. Oh man, I wish I had something like that available. So that's our little gift to you guys. Once you have it set up the way you want it, inputting the information is relatively simple. What we personally do is we have a box that we put all our receipts in. Anything my husband orders, anything I order, and we put it all in the same box. And so at the end of the month, I will collect all those receipts and put them on the table. I will separate them into where we purchased. A lot of times it's like Co-op, Tractor Supply, just because it makes the things a little easier. And then I also have kind of a separate section. I'll have like the stuff that needs to be done here. And then as I work through it, I will move it to the other side of the table to know, okay, these are the things that are done. We don't just have things from the store there. We will also have vet receipts, vet bills that we put in there. And then we will go through each receipt and make sure we pick out what items go into each category. You have to use a little math, but it's not too hard. It's basic addition. Which is about as much as I can handle. I'm not a math person. We don't include sales tax. So we do the cost of what is next to the item, not like the subtotal. And so what we will do is we will add hay and feed costs. So this would be any sheep feed, chicken feed, dog food, cat food, all of that would be under feed. We'd add all those together on the one receipt, and then we'll put it in and we'll put the date and everything in the one section. And then we'll kind of cross out what we've done. And then anything that was a supply, so this would be straw or an extra trash can we bought to put feed in, that would be all added up together separately, and we put that in supplies. For items like the vet bills, minerals, any sort of additional nutrition that we put out there for the animals, we will group together again, we'll add it all together, and then we will put it into the medical and vet. Again, I like, if it is separated by the date, I will put it individually by the date, just in case I need to go back and go, oh, I knew something happened in February, what was it, and what did we use, and all that stuff. I can go back and go, oh, that's right, I purchased this from the vet because of X, Y, and Z. Okay. A lot of times that's helpful to know what's reoccurring or what's a one-time purchase thing. Once I've gone through the physical receipts and I know that the entire receipt and all the items are in the right place, I will rip a little tear at the top of the receipt to just kind of go, okay, I know that I have it and I've done it and it's inputted, and then I put it aside to be stored in a separate box for later in case we need it. You can also use a marker and do like an X. You can do whatever you want. A lot of times I just don't have those kind of things readily available and I just want to get it done, so a little tear is fine for me. A lot of times I'll go through and I'll go, okay. And then if in some crazy case my children decide to grab a whole pile and I have to resort, I'm not going, oh shoot, what did I already do? I go, okay, that one's torn, that's torn, that's torn, okay, that's not, I'm good. It can get confusing and overwhelming with all these receipts, so as you go through, just make sure you have some way of marking what you've done, so you're not having to go back and like, oh man, I dropped a receipt, did I input that? Oh, I don't know. If it's like, nope, I tore it, it's good, or I marked it, it's good, I don't have to worry about it. This is also why we do it every month versus every quarter or every 6 months. I don't want to have to deal with a huge pile of 3 to 6 months worth of receipts. I do it every month because it's a little easier to manage. I can get through it quicker. You know, I'm a mom with little kids, and so I don't have a ton of time to go through. I don't have like a whole day to figure this out. It's like, no, I got like 15 minutes to half hour. And a month is a whole lot easier to get through than 3 to 6 months. Now keep in mind that not every receipt is a physical receipt. We have purchased things from Amazon, from Premier One, from Chewy.com for the dog, from a bunch of random places because they didn't have it available in other places, so they were just some random thing. I was like, oh cool, they have it and it's going to be here in 2 weeks and I need it in 2 weeks, so I'm going to buy it from there. But it's like, I don't even remember where I purchased it because it was so random. This is not too hard to track down. A lot of times you can go either to your email because they'll send you a receipt through your email, the actual website if you remember it, or, which is what I prefer to do, is go to my bank account because we have a separate business account. So everything in the business account were expenses for the business, and I go through their purchase history, and I go through and I go, okay, well that was Tractor Supply. Those are hard receipts. Those are physical receipts. I don't have to worry about those. Oh, Amazon. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to go back to Amazon and go look at theirs because some of the business stuff has a bunch of numbers and you don't know exactly what you purchased, and except the only thing you know is the cost. So for me, I was like, oh shoot, okay, I have it. I know what date. I know how much it was. I'm going to go over to Amazon and figure out exactly what the item I purchased was. Sometimes the bank accounts will have that information. Sometimes they don't. So that's one you kind of got to search for if it's not readily available. You can also look at the history for your Venmo account or a PayPal account if you use that as well. The important thing is do not forget these online purchases and to mark those down in your expenses. It'll sneak up on you if you don't keep track, especially if you purchase from those random spots. I can't stress enough how important it is to mark down the expenses and to make sure you are keeping on top of it all. The paperwork can be a little overwhelming and a bit discouraging when you first look at those numbers, especially if you are just starting your farm or your dairy because you don't have a lot of the stuff, so the supplies and the startup costs are a lot more than I think most people expect to have to pay the first year. Starting a farm is expensive, and there is a lot of startup costs. Now, as I mentioned before, my husband works for Dave Ramsey, and he has an amazing quote, and it's usually referred to for budgeting, but I feel like it can apply to your income and expense reports as well when it comes to a business. The quote goes like this: "Having a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went." This is so true for income and expense reports. Track it. Then you don't have to worry about where your money went. You know exactly what you purchased and the reasons behind it. Then at the end of the year, when you're doing your yearly review, it is so much easier to plan for the next year because you can see where the money went. How can you maybe cut costs for next year? What are things like for supplies that you bought last year you don't need to buy the next year? So you're like, oh, that's an expense we won't have to do next year. So it is really important to track this. I can't stress this enough. We didn't, and I wish we had. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell to be notified when we release our next video. I hope you all have a great start to your new year. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.